Hello folks, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kenny. It's a beautiful partly cloudy day here. Oh, and let me tell you, it feels pretty good, but the heat's gonna return back to us this weekend, and you can bet it's gonna be sweltering. But today folks, I want to take just a little bit of time and show you how I make salsa. I do make some salsa, and I've made it for years, and my kids love it, my grandkids like it, and I'm going to tell you, I want to show you step by step on how to make it, and let me tell you, I think it will be something you would want to do. So you hang around, and we'll get started very shortly. All right now folks, everybody that makes salsa knows that you've got to start with fresh tomatoes. Now these are my tomatoes. This is just one big tomato. This is the Brandywine, the big heirloom variety. And I've got about a half a bushel here that I have just picked from the garden. And I recommend that you start with fresh tomatoes, because that will make or break your salsa. Fresh tomatoes. And this one here, as you can see, he's kind of busted open. That's just a sign of ripening. But these have been washed. There's about a half a bushel here. They have been washed, and let me tell you, they're good and clean. And I'm going to remove the cores and cut these up, and I'll show you what they look like when I get through. But listen, when you make salsa, I do not recommend that you take the peels off of your tomatoes. That to me is a bad mistake when it comes to putting salsa in a jar. Your peels in the tomato is the #1 ingredient to where the nutrients are hid. You don't want to remove the peels of your tomatoes. Now these little rough spots here, these little tiny things where my finger is, that of course you will take off and take out the core right here, the core. But do not remove the skin. So remember that when you're making salsa. So we're going to get on these tomatoes, we're going to work them up, and then I'll show you what they look like before we start the salsa. All right now folks, we have went ahead and got these tomatoes processed. These have been processed, and as you can see, they have been chopped up into chunks. Now that is, I always make my salsa, I make it chunky, and I make it medium hot. Not very hot, but medium hot. And I have got, I think this is about a 15 quart container. And these are my tomatoes. Luscious red, ripe, fresh from the garden. No other tomato will I make salsa with. That is a priority with me. I will not make salsa with, except they be garden ripened, sun ripened. Okay, now, those are my tomatoes, the first ingredient in my salsa. Moving on over here, I have got onions. Now I've got to process this. These onions, I'm going to put 5 large onions, fresh from the garden, there. Now these are green bell, fresh picked from my garden, and they are huge. Fresh green bell, I'm going to put 3 of those in. Now these are jalapenos. I've got green jalapenos here, and I've also got red jalapenos. Now I'm going to process every bit of this, and I'm going to blend it together. I'm going to chop it up first and then blend it together every bit of this will be chopped up and blended to go in my salsa. You've got to process and take the cores out of the peppers, and of course remove the seeds. And then I will put them over in here and we will start the cooking process. All right now folks, we are trucking along here. I have processed my onions and my peppers, as you can see. Now, I mentioned a moment ago that I've got some red jalapenos in here, and I put those in there for a purpose. Of course, they add a little extra color to your salsa, and they also give it a little extra zing. And that little extra zing is what salsa is really. That's what makes salsa. So I'm going to take this. I have got a chopper, and I like this chunky, and this is chunky. Next step, add this over into your tomatoes, just like that. Add it into your tomatoes. Okay, now we're ready to start the cooking process. I'm going to stir these up just a little bit so that they will be blended together. But the blending process will begin when the cooking begins to get started. Then's when you're going to really see the things begin to blend together. The tomatoes will release their liquid, of course, with the heat. Now I'm going to bring this to a boil, folks. I'm going to bring it to a boil and cook it for about 5 minutes after it reaches the boil level. And then, well, before, we've got some other things we've got to add to this before we'll bring it to the boil, and then we'll begin to add the other stuff. So this is the start of the cooking process, and we'll get it turned on immediately. All right now folks, my tomatoes are getting ready to come to a boil. Now at this point, this is the next step that I want to do. You want to add half a cup of white vinegar to this. 1/2 cup of white vinegar. Folks, I have made this recipe for so long that I haven't got it written down. It's in my head. Okay? And give that a little stir. Now the next step, if you want to get the added zest and the added flavor to your salsa, this is what I use. This is called Mrs. Wages. I believe that is pronounced correctly. It is salsa mix. Really what it is dehydrated veggies. It's really dehydrated onion, garlic, bell peppers, etc. It's dehydrated. There's no added colors, no added flavors to it. It is totally natural. And I add about 3 or 4 packs, depending. I'm going to make about 8 or 10 quarts of salsa here. So I'm going to give it a little bit of an extra zest. And I'm going to just put that in like that. And I'm going to add 3 more packs in there for a total of 4. And that will give it that's it, Mrs. Wages. It is dehydrated veggies, red pepper, garlic, herb, spices, etc. That's what that stuff is. Now I'm going to add 4 containers. You don't have, it depends on how hot you want this. Now, if you put 3 in here, it will be relatively medium hot. So that's the way I like it, and that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to add the rest of this dehydrated special seasoning here to really just totally add the zing to my salsa. So I'm going to add the rest of this and then let it finish on cooking. Now, by the way, folks, if you want to know where you can find that Mrs. Wage's dehydrated veggies and spices, most of the times you can find it at your big box store. I'm talking, well, let's say Kroger or Walmart. You'll find it there, I'm pretty sure. Now, my next step is, this is an old-timey, what my grandmother used as a potato masher or a potato squisher. You call it whatever you want. It has got a handle to it. And now I chopped up my tomatoes really well, but I'm going to take this thing and squish them just a little to release the juices into the sauce. That's all I'm doing. I'm taking a little time here to squish these tomatoes so that they will not be, now they're going to swivel up when they cook. They're going to swivel up just a tad, really quite a bit. But this old-fashioned potato masher will actually get all of the juices that's locked inside the tomato out. That's why I'm doing it. Now you don't do it a whole lot, just a little, like that. That should be enough. So now we're going to finish letting this cook. And it shouldn't take no more than about another 10 minutes. All right, folks, we are ready to put this in a jar. This salsa is fully cooked, and it has cooked. Once you get this to the boil, you want to cook it for about 25 minutes after that. Then reduce your heat down to low, and you're ready. Now, if you'll notice this, the thickness of this right now, okay, with the tomatoes being squished and everything, the thickness of this is really thin. So, in order to get your thickness level the way that it should be and the way that you want it, you've got to thin this down. So that requires some straining. Just simply take your cup and strain this salsa like this. If you don't strain your salsa, folks, you will have thin stuff, and your kids will complain. They will say, Mom, Dad, my salsa is too thin. So in order to get that salsa thick, you have got to strain it like this. So again, just keep pouring in the strainer. You'll have to do this 3 or 4 times and let that let all of that drain out, that thin. So that juice is really what that's going to be. You can use that this winter time or whenever you want to. You can use it for your soups. Okay, now I think I've showed you. We're going to go ahead and finish this up, getting it the right thickness. Okay? All right, folks, we have completed this session. Now, as you can see, let me show you. I'm putting this in my jars. This is the last quart jar. Notice that, if you will, how thick that salsa is. Now, that's the way I make my salsa. On occasions, I will make it a little bit thinner, but you have got to strain that in order to get that thickness level. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this quart up, and that will be the final jar of my salsa. Now folks, this is comparable, down in this jar, that's comparable to fine restaurant salsa because it is that good. So we want you to, take precautions and follow the recipe. All right, folks, we made 6 quarts of salsa, and we made 2 quarts of juice with that. Now to show you how thick that is, take a look at that. It's super, super thick. That is the way my family likes salsa. Let me assure you, if you'll follow that recipe, that will be some of the finest salsa on the planet for you. So we hope we have helped you, and we hope that you will try this recipe and try it, and I know that you will like it. So it takes a while to prepare that, but it is well worth it. So hey, listen, I appreciate you for watching our videos, and you have a wonderful, blessed day, and we'll talk to you later.